Hello and welcome to Indianomics. Central bankers as a group are facing some of their biggest challenges. Initially, in the face of COVID, they were forced to cut interest rates, create liquidity, buy government bonds to finance large fiscal deficits. Then, as inflation surged in every country, they were under pressure to increase interest rates. And now the very increase in interest rates is creating financial instability problems. For some emerging markets, there is the added problem of currency weakness and capital outflows when interest rates rise in the mother economy, the US economy. So how should central bankers think when faced with not dilemmas, but trilemmas? Let me invite the veteran central banker who coined the term trilemma, Dr. Y.V. Reddy, former Governor, Reserve Bank of India. Dr. Reddy, thank you very much, sir, for joining me today in this discussion. Well, let me start actually with
Thank you, Lata. Thank you very much.
Let me start with the US problem, sir. It is there that the Fed has been faced with the problem of financial instability and yet the incomplete fight against inflation. First, what should be the copybook? What should a central banker do when faced with this dilemma?
I believe that basically you have to think in terms of, in different terms, in terms of money. It's not the international, it's the international monetary system that's at the origin. It's not the inflation or instability as such. The international monetary system, you see, in any global situation, each institution wants to avoid risk. The regulator also wants to avoid risk, but still and ensure that no unnecessary risk is taken. How do you handle that? You handle that by insisting, by self or by prescription. Make sure that you have enough risk-free assets, right?
That's right.
And what is the risk-free asset in the world normally? It is US dollar or gold.
Yes.
Or kuch nahi hai na.
Yes.
So what happens is there has been a scarcity of non-risk assets, rather safe assets, they call it safe assets.
Yes.
There has been a terrible scarcity of safe assets in the recent past. And the safe asset, therefore, my problem is you better concentrate on the safe assets problem. Okay. Gold is there. Other than gold, where is it? What's the safe asset? Its value should not... See, a safe asset is something whose value does not vary too much. Na?
Yes.
Then only it's safe. Safe is not only just stolen away, one part. So my point is the excess dependence on the US Treasury bills as the safest assets other than gold in the world is responsible for this.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, how do you bring about that stability, confidence is a bigger problem. Because the leveraged world is very difficult to bring back now.
Yes.
So you may have to have special, explicable regulatory dispensations. Let me put it, I don't know whether I make it clear. See, I'm reminded of Asian crisis time now. So what we do is, what we say is, look, I reduce the risk weight for this, you can have more this, for purpose of revaluation, to enable them to have a reduced capital, but it's temporary till particular date.
Okay.
So my point is that that's the only way now. It has to be ad hoc, it has to be contextual, it cannot be generalized. Okay. Generalized, the solution is going to be more critical and more complex. Okay. You cannot design, it's not possible to design. Okay.
So temporary regulatory regulatory SOPs will have to be given, is what you're saying?
Will have to be given to enable the not so safe assets to be considered as safe assets.
Okay, okay. So
that doesn't worry anybody, that shouldn't worry anybody.
Okay. Got it. So now in the current context, the US Fed has offered to underwrite the deposits of some of the troubled banks. Do you think this was the right way to go ahead with the problem that they faced?
Whether it's desirable or not, it depends on the situation. But given the American situation, if they didn't do it, the way the depositors panicked, I think it is safer to stop it, whatever the cost. I know the whole so-called constructive ambiguity.
Yes.
But even at constructive ambiguity, midnight on that day, I think ambiguity was not possible.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You cannot. You see, you cannot deprive a man of the money so easily. Machiavelli said, people forget the father and murder of the father sooner than the seizure of the money.
Okay, okay.
People forget the murder of the father than the seizure of the money.
Okay, okay. I get your point. Losing money would be serious, and therefore the deposits were underwritten. What is your sense about the banking system's organization itself? In Europe, the number of small banks are very few. This is a problem peculiar only to the United States. So any advice on how banking systems should be organized? Were we fortunate in a way to have public sector banks? Is it good to have some part of your banking system in the public sector?
My view on this is slightly, it's not public or private. In real life, it's really not public or private, it's public and private. But certainly not like 40% private, 50% public. It's a dangerous mix. Okay. In my view, there should be public sector banks, full public sector banks, and there should be private sector banks coexisting. Okay. Secondly, those public sector banks should concentrate on specific activities. Three, the regulator should be able to let me again explain why. You see, in the banking, there's huge incentive to smoke their activities. Smoke karta. So therefore, the regulatory information or regulatory information asymmetry, information asymmetry given to the regulator by the regulated can be minimized. Okay. By existence of public sector banks, the governance systems of the public sector banks ensure that you give reasonably good truth. For regulator, knowing the truth on a continuous basis is one of the most important things. Secondly, I feel that there are special problems, special sections, and they should be, if necessary, whatever the commercial cost, the government should reimburse. But a good banking system, I believe, is one where at least 30% of the total banking system is entirely public sector, and make sure that the governance is good. That would be my, I think I mentioned this in 2000 or something like that,
yes.
in a speech. I call it technical paper. I still feel strongly about that.
Yes, sir. I think you said this in a speech to the NIBM in 2000, is my memory as well. Okay, so let me just come to the way India has handled the problems. Our governor, Shaktikanta Das, has got a citation as the central banker of the world, as the best central banker for the year. And you have endorsed it. You said that he has done an outstanding job in view of the extraordinary challenges he faced and the manner in which he had to negotiate the relationship with the government. Can you elaborate a little more on that? This is high praise, as I would call it. This is Vashishta calling him Brahma Rishi. Can you elaborate why you admire the way he handled the crisis?
I think I can add, there is nothing secret. I've written to the people who asked me from the jury, nothing secret. I believe that a governor it is a governor which has faced perhaps most difficult situations. And not just international, more important, the domestic. The type of problems he has faced, it's impossible that he could have managed them without the cooperation of the governor. The problem with RBI in the previous few years was that the government and RBI are supposed to be having problems. And here is a man who comes, despite all the criticism about his not being economic and independent, he comes, settles down, quickly repairs the relationship with the government. Please remember, one of the sentences I have written there is that he has collaborated with the government as in the case of all other countries. You see, every country has to operate whenever they... One of the things which people forget, independent central bank. First, you must always know that when there is a crisis, you have to be with the government. You cannot be away from the government. You cannot operate without a crisis. Similarly, you want structural changes in an economy. You cannot amend the law related to banking regulation. A governor cannot amend the Banking Regulation Act without taking the government into confidence. Then how do you bring about structural changes? So my point is, structural changes cannot be brought about. Crisis cannot be done by the governor on its own unless they are able to. Incidentally, let me share you the story. When I was governor, I was against, you remember, I tried that bonds, yes. MSS. Market stabilization
yes. Market
scheme.
stabilization scheme bonds.
When I went to MSS bonds, when I approached, the minister said, no, it can't be agreed. By Chief Economic Advisor Ashok Lahiri opposed. I said, sir, I don't want independence.
Okay.
I said, why? He said, central bank independence will be compromised. I said, what independence, sir? I don't want independence. And there's a huge capital flow. How can my independence help? The determination of the government and the governor that there is a serious problem that will tackle is alone that helps.
Okay.
I hope I didn't give you a long answer.
Yes. No, but it is most helpful, sir. But I'm not done with asking you questions on, the Indian situation itself and how we are tackling the dilemma between growth and inflation, as well as, of course, the external challenge. I will have to take a brief break. I'm coming back with more questions.